half ago that I was on a studio visit with George up at Christopher Lake, and he showed me some of his work that was going in a different direction. There were some new materials that were incorporated, there was some new kind of imagery, and I drove back to Prince Albert, and I thought, this is kind of some cool stuff that we have going on here, and it's a little bit different than what we know of George. And I thought it was worthy of an exhibition. And so luckily George accepted the offer to show his work, and now we are here. Having said that, I was slightly conflicted because the work is so diverse, it is so eclectic, that I was wondering how it would come together to form a somewhat cohesive exhibition. But that's okay, because when I asked George about it, he said that his whole intention was to just experiment. That's all he wanted to do. Although in a later conversation, he said also that this work was a redefinition of his practice that was shaped by 3 factors. And those factors were time, place, and media. So I'm going to use those factors to sort of guide our discussion this evening. But I'm going to stop yapping in a second here. And before I get into some more specific questions, I just want to ask George, how does it feel to be sitting here surrounded by some of your newer works in the gallery space?
It feels good.
Great.
We haven't rehearsed these questions. Answer yes or no.
That was a very solid answer.
240 characters.
Right. Yeah. I can text you tomorrow.
Okay, well, let's start somewhere else. let's take the idea of time, because that has been one of the factors that did shape how your work has been produced in the last few years. But I actually want to jump back in time right now and tell me about how you first got interested in art. What spurred on that interest in art and in painting?
Oh my goodness, it goes back a long, long way, and probably the first influence in my life was my uncle, who was a painter. And his paintings were in our home from as long as I can remember. So Uncle Peter was a presence always, and he always painted a lot of still life too. So, you know, when you think about it, it's a natural family genetic thing. After that, it seemed like I wasn't discouraged from going into art school, and so with lots of family support, I progressed from there.
So you undertook your post-secondary studies at the University of Manitoba, and tell me a little bit about what you learned at that time. Who were your teachers, and how did they shape this focus on art?
Well, I was at the University of Manitoba in Winnipeg, and at that time there was a transition from what had been the old school of art to a university setting, a new building on a university setting. So we were at the top floor, and sculpture and ceramics were on the lower floor, and in the middle was interior design. And we always used to joke about walking up and down from the top studios to the basement and smelling the expensive perfume as we passed the floor. There was in interior design a real push to have a professional presence, and we didn't know what professional presence was. So, yeah, that was the University of Winnipeg, your University of Manitoba.
And was it then that you also realized that painting was what you wanted to pursue versus sculpture, for example? Tell us about your adventures in sculpture.
Adventures in sculpture, yeah. We had a professor from somewhere in the United States, northern United States, and he wasn't happy, and he didn't like my work. He didn't like it so much that I think I'm the only student from the University of Manitoba who graduated. On the transcript it says, must not take another sculpture class.
No more sculpture for you. Which is kind of interesting because in these later works, there's a lot of three-dimensional elements. So I wonder how that came back.
It's ironic.
It is ironic. So in 1975, you came to Prince Albert, not with the intention of settling here or being here on a long-term basis, but you were an artist in residence with support from the Saskatchewan Arts Board. So can you share with us, what was it like here in Prince Albert at that time? And I know some of you may have memories of this, but who were some of the people that you were working with and that helped shape the direction of your practice?
Well, the first person I met in Prince Albert was Margaret Van Walsum. Karen Van Walsum is here. And almost the second person I met was Andre Martinson. Andre Martinson is here. So there were a small group of very supportive people, which made it possible for me to stay in Prince Albert. They supported me through classes, and they supported me because they were interested in, the evolving sort of art practice themselves. They were looking for new challenges, new ideas, and so it worked out very well.
Yeah. So a really creative environment was starting to form with a few people.
Yeah, there were wonderful people there.
One of the, I think, shaping factors, not only in an artist's life, but in anyone's life, is place or where you are living, and that can really define our interests and shape who we are, I think, at any given time. In many artists' work in Saskatchewan, I feel like the outdoors and nature is such an inspiration, or gives them a lot of information in their work, and especially in this part of the province, and of course north of us. But I think in your work it's a little bit different. It's the opposite. Instead of going to the great outdoors, there's more of a retreat inwards. Retreat, of course, to interiors, which we're seeing here tonight, and of course to a lot of still life. So what compels you to depict still life? You mentioned that there's probably a genetic trait there.
Yeah.
But I mean, 40 some years on, you keep drawing from it. What is it about it?
There are no flies. There's no wind there. When you're outside, you have to deal with a lot of things that don't have to do with aesthetics. They just have to do with flies sticking on your painting, or mosquito. When I was teaching at Emma Lake, I had the luxury of being in the studio with my students. There were so many mosquitoes at Emma Lake, it was unbelievable. And I would send them out to do their quota of pieces, and they'd come whining back to the studio and say there were too many mosquitoes. I would just drive them out. I would just say, get back out there and do your work. And then I tried it one time. I tried just standing there for 1 minute. It drove me crazy. So still life isn't just genetic, it's also an encouraged gene, I think.
That's how your environment is shaped too.
Right. I like outdoors when you can see them from the studio.
It's really good. I can see how you've embraced that in your work throughout the decades.
And yet he sends all his students up.
There is a piece in this exhibition that does have a bumblebee in it, so you'll see, though it's rather plastic. Yeah. Just over here. At one point I asked George how he felt about beauty and what his definition of beauty was, and he told me that it was stillness brought to life. And so I can't help, of course, but to make this connection with the genre of still life as well. Can you elaborate on that definition of beauty, and how did you come up with it?
I guess when I'm working with still life, it's something I can, to a certain extent, I can control those elements in the painting And there's something that into a busy life, into a busy lifestyle that we all have, there comes a kind of order and stillness. So I'm bringing that whole experience of a frantic, almost frantic pace of life and making it still. But I also think that on the other hand, you can, with your work, instill life into something which is considered just objects. So the definition kind of goes both ways. I like the way it plays back and forth.
In the last few decades, I think it's fair to say that there's been an increase in the materiality of our world. We have so much stuff, so many things are available to us. Has that affected your view of both the definition and the genre?
I think I've got half of all of the stuff that was ever produced in the world. It's all in the studio. I can't, my sister's in the back of the room. We talk sometimes about being the product of a Depression era mentality, and my parents couldn't throw anything away, and I can't throw it away either. So despite Connie's encouragement that we should clean out a little, I just can't think why we would throw that away when we could use it again later. That's a different attitude to what's happening now. I mean, it's just, we're inundated with plastic. So much plastic that I was reading today that sometimes the plastic wrap for these plastic objects is more valuable than the object itself. So it's just like floating islands of, it's horrible. It's truly horrible. It's choking the earth.
So maybe if you can use it in your work, then it has a genuine purpose.
Yeah, well, that sort of leads into the next thing. Well, why I can't throw paint away? I discovered that with the acrylic paint, when I put it on a plastic palette, it will peel off. And sometimes the quality of that paint is so beautiful that I can't throw it away. I want to reuse it. So it's constantly, I sort of feel like a hamster. I can't throw anything away. I keep using it. On and on it goes.
It's always going to be there, at least in your studio.
Yes, yeah.
And that leads me actually to my next question, which is about your studio spaces. Obviously, that place of creativity is so important for any artist, and it's unique for every artist as well. And in George's work, it's totally central, and you can actually see that here in the gallery space because we're sitting in front of one of the largest works in this exhibition, which depicts part of the interior of his studio. And just on the opposite wall, at the back of the gallery, there's another portrayal of part of his studio. That was called Psychedelic Sunset. A bit of a look again at the outside, the snowy day. So tell us how your studios have changed over time, because that certainly affected this new direction in your work.
When I first came to Prince Albert, I was really lucky because the basement of the Daily Herald was available. It was a huge space. They were 10-foot ceilings, massive cement building, and that space was at least 3,000 square feet. And I stayed there for 25 years, and I had it pretty much full. And then at the night of the millennial, when we were changing over to the new century, I had been evicted from my studio of 25 years. Conrad Black had bought the paper chain, and he wanted to see, instead of, black ink instead of red ink. And I was evicted, and I had to be out by January 1st. So the night of the millennial, I was unpacking all the stuff that I had collected for years. It was a beautiful studio, but it looked out onto 10th Street East, and I could see all the feet walking by on 10th Street. So it was a basement space. And from there, I moved to the CB block, which was not a basement space. I had to walk up the stairs. It was still an apartment at that time. And I had an interior space with a skylight. And the skylight was truly beautiful. But I couldn't see anything except the pigeons that landed on the skylight. Then for a while, when Connie was working at her summer job, I used her studio in the summer, and it actually had windows and skylights. But then they sold the building, and I had to move again. And then I moved into a very nice place on the other side of the art center. It was down the basement. There were no windows. There was no water. And the ventilation system prevented me from using oil. But it was secure, and except when the lights went out, you know, it was when the lights went out, it was completely black. So I had gone from at least basement windows to no windows at all. And then this building in Christopher Lake came available. It was a garage. Some of you may remember Rose Minot. Rose Minot's partner was a contractor, general contractor, Murray Hunter, and he had died. And so there was an estate sale of the building that he used as his center, his workshop. So I made an offer on that, and finally I was owning the building. I actually, for the first time in my life, I owned a studio. And it was all on one level, and I had windows put in. So I could actually see, you know, I didn't look up at anything, I just looked straight up, and I looked straight out at trees, hundreds of trees, and I thought, what do I do now? You know, like, avoiding trees for so many years, and then suddenly I didn't know whether I had to paint each tree, or which trees I should eliminate. I've got it worked out now, but it took me, like I moved there in 2005, and this is now 2017, so 12 years later, I'm kind of getting a handle on the trees.
So we've talked a little bit about the use of material in your work and grappling with that idea of materiality as well. We've also discussed content, and I think in these works that we're seeing, both are very strong. There's highly interesting use and mixture of different and unexpected materials. There's also content that for some maybe is a familiar continuation of George's work, and in other cases it's a little bit different. So this next question is a little bit vague, but tell me, what do you think is more important? Is it the material or the content of a painting?
It's always about the content. Sometimes you shuffle a deck of cards around just to make things a little more challenging or a little more interesting. But ultimately, it's always the content. So in this case, with this body of work, I was playing with materials, acrylic materials, and for years I told people that I didn't like acrylics and they were evil. And then suddenly, with the turnaround of products like tar gel, which it's not like tar, it's clear, it's really clear, really shiny. And it enabled me to paint and scumble my surface like I had with oil. So, you know, that led to a whole bunch of investigation and playing around. But ultimately, what happens is that just reinvigorates your process and breathes more life into the content of the work.
There seems to be certain elements that are repeated, maybe repeated motifs in your paintings. So I think there's at least 5 depictions of a pedestal plate in this room. There's a number of flowers that are the same. And there's also even things like napkins that have been painted in and that repeat themselves in different works, even though it may not intentionally be a series. So what is it about certain objects that makes you want to depict them repeatedly?
I don't know. I know that when I see a plate or a table rather, when I see an empty table, a little white table, whoa, something happens. White table, white tables. You know, there's tables everywhere, and I think it's my playground for shuffling things around to create a composition which will elicit the sort of feel that I want from a painting. And it seems that little stage, that little kind of stage, you've noted that too, that these little tables become like little brightly lit settings. So I don't know why that, I don't know what made me that way, but I just love going into houses that are nearly empty, you know, because you can imagine how you would arrange that space and what you would do with it. Same with an empty table. You know, I just can't help shuffling little objects around to create the environment that I want from on that table.
Do you consider that to be like a mini stage, or not? It's just there.
I think it's a mini stage. I think it's like theater. It's like a theater stage, and the objects in the painting are like actors, and they play a part. And sometimes what they do is they simply set up the negative space. The space between the actors becomes the important part of the content of the painting.
Absolutely. I think in a number of the images that are here, you can see where something has been viewed by you in real life. The inspiration comes from a tangible object, and then you kind of let the materials become that object in the work. Materials take over a little bit. Not to say that they become more important than the depiction of the thing itself. Other pieces are more abstract. There's nothing that can be identified as coming from your studio or your life or a tangible area. Can you tell us about the difference in those? Is there a difference?
You know, when Paige was talking about the idea of portals and stories and imagining, I think that everybody looks to art for a kind of narrative. And I'm no different. When I'm painting, I make up my own stories. You may not see them. You may make your own narrative as part of what you do as a spectator. But for me, the narrative is a really important part of the painting process. So even on pieces that are abstract, for example, the whole suite of paintings at the back, the small paintings, are so small that I could kind of hold them on my lap and hold them at my table, and so it was very intimate what I was doing there. And so a block of wood and a beautiful rectangle of turquoise, they start to speak to me in a kind of way, and I interact. At the end of the process, the narrative obviously has been important to me. I couldn't tell you what the narrative was necessarily. Sometimes it's a flying rock, or sometimes it's an angel, or just a block of wood. But I have to be engaged, and I think the narrative process is really important in that.
Absolutely. When we were setting up this exhibition, and George had come in, we're seeing how things were going, reviewing the layout, etc. George noted that one of the surprises of seeing all of the work together in this space is that there was actually a lot of darkness in many of the pieces. Not necessarily a dark message, but literally just a dark color. And I guess that makes sense, because in the studio space, you would see much more clearly and directly some of these larger pieces that are quite big and bright versus some of the smaller dark ones. So what does that, I guess, play in the difference in color mean to you? And then on a larger question, how does color factor into your work?
Color's always been really important to my work. Why I mean, for years I denied the presence of yellow in my work. I said I couldn't paint with yellow, and then students would come to the studio and they'd see all these yellow paintings. I couldn't account for why they were there. And I've never painted with red like that, or red like that. But you know, that red surface was so stunning. Thank you, Miranda. It was so stunning that I couldn't paint on it for a long time until I knew where I wanted. The surface was just beautiful. The quality of the red and the tar gel over the red made it so shiny and clear and dynamic. Then the painting right at the back, the psychedelic sunset. I mean, that was an overlay of colors, allowing some of the undercolors to come through and enliven the top layers of paint. It's another kind of way of working with color, but you know, I don't know what it is when you get old. Maybe you work with bright colors. Can hardly wait for cataracts.
It's really going to enhance your work. I just have a few more questions before we wrap up. One, I'm wondering if you can share with us your favorite piece in this exhibition and why.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. My favorite piece is right behind Alec. It's one of the small pieces. No, that's the one. That's the one. It's a little tiny piece. I'd been experimenting with some. I have this powder, copper powder I've never used it. I made a texture with the tar gel, and then I threw the powder down it, and it created this beautiful bronzy quality. But then I also had this transparent layer that I lifted off my palette. And it had these beautiful jagged edges, and I put it down on this little piece, and it just was perfect. It was so perfect. I didn't plan it, I didn't do it, it was like given to me. It's so amazing, it's so fast, and I love that piece. Can you hear me say that? Anyway, that's my favorite piece. I love the edge, I love the translucence. I like the undercolor of the underpainting coming through it. Perfect.
Fantastic. Make sure you get a good look at that one. It is a little gem there. That's why you have its own wall as well. I also want to ask, in regards to all of your work, what is it that you want viewers to take away when they view your work?
I had such a lot of fun doing these paintings. I mean, maybe I shouldn't have fun. Maybe I shouldn't say that, but it was just fun. It was fun to play with the paint and to experiment. It was free, very, very free. I felt that I threw away a lot of rules that I don't know why I'd been subscribing to this set of rules anyway, but there didn't seem to be any need to follow the rules anymore. And now I give the paintings to the public, and I'd like people to look at these paintings, and I'd like them to recreate them in their own minds. I mean, once I finish with them, they're just an object. But once the viewer sees them, engages with them, they become alive again. So I'd like you to go to that place, go to the painting. It doesn't have to be what I think or see or intended for that painting to be, but I want you to be engaged with the paintings and find some of that same freedom that I found when I was making them.
And I think there's certainly a lot of opportunity for that with the works in these shows. There's so much to delve into it with every single piece. So thanks, George. Thanks for having a chat tonight. On that note, George said that he's broken a lot of rules. Maybe he doesn't care about them so much now. But there actually is an opportunity for him to perhaps teach you some of these rules. I wanted to mention that when George retired in 2013, he had retired from teaching painting and drawing, specifically through the University of Saskatchewan's Extension Division. George has also been a wonderful teacher in summer workshops that take place every July at the Arts Centre, which is just a few blocks east of us. And luckily, George still does teach those summer workshops. So if you are interested, no matter what level you are, total beginner or accomplished artist, do consider gleaning some of George's wonderful experience and knowledge through those workshops at the Arts Centre. Contact them for more information, or staff at the Mann Art Gallery can also point you in the right direction as well. I just want to share one more item with you before we wrap up, and I'll let you chat with George and of course have some more food and drink and see the works. Many of you know that Diane and Roger Mann are just fantastic patrons of the arts here in Prince Albert, and the Mann Art Gallery is so grateful to benefit from their generosity. And one way that they support the gallery and support artists is by earmarking part of their annual donation specifically for the acquisition of artworks into our permanent collection. And this is really important for a few reasons. Not only does it support artists, but it allows us to build up this fantastic visual example of both historical and contemporary works that really describe who we are at a given time in Prince Albert. And so part of my job is to select some works every year to be part of that permanent collection. And I'm really pleased to share with you all that there will be at least one work from this show coming into the collection. And in fact, I'm purchasing it tonight. And that piece is the self-portrait at the very front of this show. Change the label, actually. I have to go cut another label that says Permanent Collection of the Mann Art Gallery. Having a self-portrait of an artist is really wonderful. Artists don't always make self-portraits, yet they are such fascinating insights into who that person is. Of course, there's so much psychology bound up in it when they're done at all points in an artist's career. So we're really, really pleased to be adding that as the newest acquisition. So you don't have to make room in your studio when the show is done. We're keeping it here. So thank you so much, George, and thank you everyone, and enjoy the rest of your evening.